Good evening, gentlemen. I want to talk Jordan Henderson. Mark, after 5 and a bit months, has Henderson had enough of growing the game in Saudi Arabia?
Well, it certainly seems that way. It's one of those stories that's broke over the course of the last 24 hours, and immediately it grabs your attention because this was a man that damaged his reputation in some quarters by going over to Saudi Arabia for taking the big pay packet, and in the subsequent media interviews said that he wanted to be a part of an exciting project, he wanted to grow the game, and he wanted a new challenge. And like you rightly say, already it seems that the challenge is not as exciting as he first thought, and that obviously no matter how much money you're paid in football, sometimes the happiness of your family is more important, and it certainly seems to be the case. What do we know about Jordan Henderson? At 33 years old, we know that his best days are behind him, but he wants a move out of Saudi Arabia, and the Premier League is his preferred destination. Ettifaq are not keen on selling someone who they invested a lot of money in, £13 million plus a reported £350,000 a week is what he's been paid since he went there. We know that they're struggling as well, and struggling to win games. They're not playing in front of big crowds at the moment. So this is going to be one to monitor, but the problem for Jordan Henderson will be who wants him. At 33, 34 in the summer, can he offer the right type of midfield role for anyone in the Premier League or potentially in Europe? We know that obviously he's on extremely high wages, so therefore teams in the Premier League and Europe will be saying, we can't afford to pay what you're currently on or get even close to it. And of course, Ettifaq will want to recoup a large chunk of what they've invested in him as a player. So this is going to be one to monitor. This is obviously the early stages of this and only came out in the last 24 hours. But certainly Jordan Henderson's time in Saudi Arabia looks like it potentially is coming to an end.
Gary, has he just got to suck this up? He's under contract, he's just got to deal with it and stay.
Well, I think that certainly when there was such a big story about it in the first place, you know, going out there to help grow this exciting project, supposedly, and I think the challenge to that is that there's also going to be a loss of face for the club if suddenly he about turns, and, you know, it's not always the player's choice, is it? You know, you're contractually obliged and you've gone there for different reasons. I think the challenge, from what I can see, it appears from just from the player's perspective, you know, when you go out there and you think this is going to be something that's going to be so big and so new, and then all of a sudden you're perhaps playing in front of 4,000 fans or 5,000 fans. And when you're used to, you know, you saw the game the other day, you know, when you're used to these barnstorming atmospheres of full stadiums in the Premier League, it's quite difficult to do that every week and week out. And he is such a competitor, isn't he? So I think the challenge at the moment is, like the guys are saying, is where does he go? You know, he's certainly not going to go back to a top 4 team. He isn't going to have that same influence that he had at Liverpool. He's probably going to end up at a mid to lower Premier League side, and you know, where that might be, who knows?
That's the question, Dharmesh. So where are his viable options?
Well, I think Mark covered it there in his answer with regard to the wages. That's going to be a big factor, because will Ettifaq want to allow him to go? And if it's going to be some sort of deal where it's a loan, when you look at Premier League clubs, when they are loaning out players to European clubs tend to want the Premier League club to help out with their wages, such as the money that Premier League clubs are on. This has gone the other way almost, because the Premier League club, potentially, who would want to bring him from Saudi Arabia, they are now finding that the Saudi Arabian wage is much higher than they would have paid in the Premier League. So are they going to have to go to Ettifaq and say, can you subsidise some of the wages? Now, given that the Saudi Arabian club have invested so much money in Jordan Henderson, they're going to be very reticent to do such a deal, or at least not make it as easy as a Premier League club potentially would, even though they are very well aware that Jordan Henderson has not settled in the Saudi Pro League. He hasn't settled in the country, and he hasn't settled really with the football. The team's not doing very well either. So the other issue that Jordan Henderson, I'm sure, is thinking about as well is 6 months out from Euro 2024. Now, we know publicly Gareth Southgate will say I will select anyone who's playing football. Even though he's playing football, I'm sure Gareth Southgate will want him to be playing football at the highest possible level, so close to a European Championship.
Mark, Gary posed the question, where does he go? So I'm going to pose it to you. I know he's a Sunderland boy. Given the Saudi link, could he go to Newcastle?
I'd be very surprised. I'd be very surprised if that was to be an option for him. You have to just look at the way Eddie Howe wants his midfielders to play. We know that they're missing a number of players because of injury and obviously Sandro Tonali's ban. But at 33 years old, can he play the aggressive front foot football, the pressing game, and put in the numbers that Eddie Howe would require from a central midfielder? I don't think so. I think automatically people will put that assumption together like you rightly do. You know, the Saudi Arabians own Newcastle. There's a natural link there. That could be an opportunity, and it could also appease things financially. But I don't think he's a player that Newcastle will be interested in. I think they'd be looking a lot younger, as they have done. The profile of the players that they've taken to the club have been in their early 20s. So I don't think that's an option. And I think when you start to look through the Premier League and you look at the clubs that potentially would be interested in him, or clubs that he would be interested in going to, I don't think there'll be many options.